Lars Svensson, please come up.
So, among the more recent PhD students in the room, you probably don't know much about me. Very briefly, I graduated from KTH as a WASP student in 2021. And after that, I ran one of these WALP projects, which later became a startup that is named Nordic Forestry Automation, or NFA. And I'd like to start by obviously thanking the WASP management and the selection committee for this prize. I'm feeling very lucky to have ended up in a position that would merit such an award among such very peers like this. It's quite uncomfortable, actually. But anyway, I thought I would sort of divert some of this credit to some of the people who have been very much involved in the work that is being recognized here. First and foremost, my co-founder for the startup, David. Are you here somewhere? There, it's waving. So David should definitely have a lot of credit for what I'm about to say here. And he's currently leading the software development team at NFA. There's also Max Åstrand. He had to go, but maybe he's still here. No, he probably had to leave a little bit early. He was very much involved in the sort of initial phase of baking this idea that eventually became a startup while we were colleagues at KTH. I've been given roughly 15 minutes here, and my aspiration is to use that time to really highlight the unique opportunities that are available to the people in this room when it comes to sort of porting your research into some sort of entrepreneurial endeavor, if you want to. And hopefully there are some experiences along our journey with NFA that we could potentially share with you. And we're both me and David are very open to you guys getting in touch with us, and we can share concepts and ideas. All right, so I'll start by saying something about forests, because that's the space where NFA is active. Forests have an absolutely enormous potential, both when it comes to binding CO2 from the atmosphere, and for there's a clock overlay here on on my notes. Maybe there's nothing to be done about that, but sorry. Oh, there it went away. Thank you. For capturing CO2 from the atmosphere, of course, and also for preserving biodiversity, and of course for providing renewable materials and fuels. But this enormous capacity is not at all fully utilized. And that's not because we don't know how to do it, because there's been literally hundreds of years of research into how various types of forest management affect the growth of the forest. But the problem is rather in the execution. So we have no real means of making sure we're actually doing what we plan to do. Because the industry is very sort of traditional and relies a lot on the craftsmanship, on the individual people who are working in this environment. So I'll try to keep not dive into too much detail, but the challenges in forest management today are basically twofold. One category is about goal fulfillment, and the other one is about efficiency. And both of these can be addressed by autonomous systems, in my view. So the big problem here is what I hinted at already, that we know what we want to do in forest management, we're just not doing that. So for example, in thinning operations in Sweden, you typically take out too much volume, which has a very negative impact on the growth rate for the coming 50 years of the forest. This, of course, has a negative effect on the overall growth rate of forests in general. And if you would fix this, you would increase the capacity of the Swedish forests to capture carbon by in the order of tens of megatons every year, which is at a scale where you could easily offset half of the Swedish emissions just by tweaking what you do in forest management. And why is that? Well, it's because Sweden is mostly forest, and so are all the other Nordic countries. And the second half is more sort of a traditional autonomous systems problem. You have low technical utilization of machines because there's a human operator, which is the sort of productivity bottleneck. And if you can raise the level of abstraction with which the operator interacts with the machine and thereby increase efficiency, there's a lot of value to be gained there. So it all comes down to this guy, the operator of the machine. This is images from one of these thinning operations where you go into a forest, you take out a subset of the trees, not for the sake of the wood volume, but rather to optimize the conditions for the remaining trees so they have the best possible conditions to continue growing. And during this operation, the operator has two big tasks. You have to perform the live feedback control of the machine, which is a big and complex machine with many degrees of freedom. And at the same time, you're making all of these forest management decisions. Which trees to cut, how many trees to cut in a given area, etc. And this equates to a very high cognitive load. This has been sort of compared with the cognitive load of a fighter pilot, with the difference being that these guys do it 8 hours every day. And this is really the core of the problem, and that's where our company, NFA, is tackling it. So we're using sort of the usual suspects for sensor modalities, LiDAR camera, GPS, IMU, to build up a digital representation of the forest around the machine, live and in real time. And this has some of the standard robotics problems inside. Localization is a big challenge. This is a partially GPS-denied environment since we're all the time below the tree canopy. Also, the detection of the trees and the characterization of each tree is challenging due to the changing and very organic environment. So that's why this problem is hard and haven't been solved before. And then on top of this, we have a user interface that indicates to the driver basically how to go about the operation in order to hit the target. So we're basically comparing the current state of the forest with the goal for this current particular operation, and then indicating the difference to the driver. So here you can see, in this case, the target is a specific density among the trees, so stems per hectare. And the green area up to the left indicates that here is a high density area. Cut some trees there until it goes black, and then you're done. So it basically offloads these forest management decisions from the driver to this system. And this is just a quick look of what it looks like when it's deployed in the field. And here you see another example of why this is hard. The forest in here is quite a messy and organic geometry. and that's where the sort of the real challenge lies. It's a big difference, as in with any robotics company, I guess, is from a demo in nice sunshine, great conditions. You can have a flat plane with a bunch of cylinders on there. Whereas this is what the reality looks like. This is the majority of Swedish forests actually look like this, and it's much harder in terms of perception problem. All right. At this stage, we've been doing this for a few years now, and continuously improving on our prototypes and working on the software stack. And at this stage, we have 6 permanently installed pre-series units, so it's sort of a beta version of the finished product. And this is deployed. 5 of those are spread out in Sweden, and this number 6 is kind of a joker. It's in Australia, in forest management there. And we also did some tests in North America and so forth. So this is sort of the pre-series. That's the last step before the final product, and we're working towards start of production after summer this year. And apart from all the technical stuff, we managed to build up a quite neat little company, I think. We have an absolutely amazing team consisting of 8 people, out of which 6 have a software background, and 4 have PhDs in robotics and computer vision. Backing up the team, we have a nice group of investors, sort of strategic investors. There's 2 of the largest forest companies in Sweden and also the world. Södra and Sveaskog are our main investors in the company. We also have Almi Invest, and since very recently, actually, we're very happy to announce that we're welcoming Navigare Ventures as part of the owner group. And they are a sort of a deep tech specialist venture capitalist investor within the Wallenberg sphere. And we had sort of a major breakthrough on the commercial side during the fall, where Södra, which is this one big forest company, announced that they intend to roll this out on the whole fleet of machines, which is 150 machines, starting this summer. And that's why we're now very much focused on getting ready for production. And we had some different recognition in various news outlets, etc. So this question happens from time to time that I get asked: why did you end up in forestry? And it's a valid question, I guess, especially since my research topic when I was in the WASP program was not at all about forestry. It was in automotive, so I developed motion planning and control algorithms for autonomous cars and trucks. But I also grew up on a small forestry farm, more specifically this one here. So I had some knowledge about the problems that autonomous systems could solve in forestry already going into it. And everything really started with the sort of a key observation that there's been a lot of progress in autonomous systems in various verticals, automotive being one of them. There's also mining, agriculture, etc. But nothing was happening in forestry at all. And in my mind, it was just a question of time whether when this would happen. There was no sort of obvious technical reason why it wouldn't happen in forestry as well. So that was sort of the big trend indication that said that there's probably an opportunity here. So with that observation, we basically just started doing stuff. So everything started. I just borrowed a bunch of sensors from a project at KTH over a weekend. Basically, I returned them But no one minded that I borrowed that for sort of a pet project. And so went back to the farm, recorded a bunch of data in various forest environment. It was just sensors and a computer in a box powered by a drill battery, basically. And this worked very well to build initial data sets based on which we could develop the first very preliminary perception stack. And this came to a point where we could demo some basic functionality, you know, localization in this partially GPS denied environment, detection of trees and classification of trees, etc. And then we showed that to the forestry companies and tried to ask very, very open questions. So where in their value chain is there some gain to be had by using this technology? And that's they very clearly pointed us towards supporting the operators of the machine, and in particular the harvester machine, and in particular the thinning operation, which is the sort of the category of forest workers that are most in need of additional support systems. Yeah, so after I graduated in 2021, we went directly into a WALP project, and that gave me an opportunity to work full time on this for 1.5 years. And that's for something that is sort of deep tech oriented, getting that sort of calm and room to just work is really essential to getting somewhere. And that's really what is unique about the WALP concept. I'll return to that a little bit later. So I got the opportunity to spend basically all of my time coding and building this first prototype that we could show to customers and to investors. And that made the company basically investment ready in 2023. And using this WALP tool, we were able to reduce the sort of personal financial risk to zero, basically. And also, we were able to avoid this step of sort of potentially sketchy angel investors that come in early. So we could go directly for these strategic investors that are also sort of key resources outside of them. You're just putting money into the company. Yeah, so we're reasonably well on the way to put a first product on the market and becoming profitable as a company. But that's just really the first step in our sort of long-term strategy, which is towards increased levels of automation in this sector. There's huge value to be had from that. But we have this sort of in some sense conservative stepwise approach where we're starting with perception only, purely perception-based operator supports. Which is what I've been showing so far. And the idea there is to get the fleet out of these systems where perception performance, sort of reasonably good perception performance, it still provides the sort of customer value there. And we can use the fleet of these systems in order to collect data and build up that infrastructure to sort of automatically all the time generate this data for these very data-driven. The perception algorithms basically need a lot of domain-specific and sensor-specific data from the correct environments. And that's one way of getting that is through having a fleet, basically. And the idea is to, over time, build up this perception engine to the point where it's accurate and robust enough to actually control the machine. Yes, so I'll be wrapping up. I have sort of a few final points that I want to send with you guys. If you have any sort of ideas about starting a company, then I would really recommend the WALP opportunity. It's very unique to you guys sitting in this room. And if I would summarize it in one sentence, it's an order of magnitude more money and then an order of magnitude less overhead than any comparable option for soft funding. So it's a really good opportunity. Also, I guess there's a lot of hypes that come and go within this field, and I would try to recommend avoiding sort of getting caught in the latest hype, but try to look at the general trends and what is sort of more definitely going to happen eventually, and try to fit your ideas into that sort of a context. And then, maybe most important of all, think really long and hard. This is specifically for sort of robotics-oriented ideas. I would think long and hard about what value your product or service is creating, and what parts of the autonomous stack that creates that value. Because if there is a possibility to split it like this with sort of a perception-only start, and then building from there toward full automation, then it's an opportunity to get much quicker to a market with the first product. Because all the sort of safety and regulatory concerns, they really kick in when you start controlling something, especially a big and heavy machine. Yeah, I guess that's it for me. Don't hesitate to reach out to me or to David if you have questions about WALP or commercializing your research. Also, we're hiring, so I'm just putting that there. You can do with that information however you want. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lars.